Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a DFS strategy video for the 2021 Sanderson Farms Championship. Now I know this is coming out late. I apologize. Primary job was it was a little long today and wasn't able to get into the spreadsheet and update it. So I'm here putting out this video. Most of you guys will see around midnight most likely. But still want to get it out for you guys so you have an opportunity to see this, maybe make some alterations to your lineups if you even have time. In the future, I'm gonna get this video out faster. So I'm gonna actually try to power through this as fast as I possibly can. I kind of want to see how quick this can be if I don't really put a lot of explanation into a lot of the things I'm gonna talk about. I'm still gonna go through the bucket system. I am still gonna go through tee times and then find our best, our best golfers at the end of it. So without further ado, let's go ahead, get into the spreadsheet. I have the bucket system up right now. Not going to discuss or go over what it is. What I am going to do, though, is just scroll right down to the top 10 bucket. This is where our numbers are going to be when we look at the DK page. I'm going to scroll over so you guys can see. Well, how about this? Let's hide this one so you guys can... There we go. I want you guys to be able to see the numbers right here. As you can see, the bucket numbers over here, these are the ranking system. This is the ranking system. 1 is best, 6 is worst. What we see for last year, for the last year bucket, our ones are golfers who did not play the year before. And we have a clip of 56.16%. The next nearest bucket are golfers who missed the cut the year before, and that's at 15%. And then you can obviously see the other ranges over here: 1 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80, and those go right in order from top down. So 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm going to talk about the last week bucket. I'm going to come back to the last year one, but what I want to go over with the last week is the CIMB tournament used to be right before this, and that was a tournament with only 40 golfers in it. It was an invitation or an invitational, so we didn't see a lot of golfers from that tournament coming to this one. A lot of those golfers that were invited to that tournament were good, so we see a huge gap between 2019 and 2016. I think 2015 the CIMB was, and by the way, I did update this. So we do have one golfer from the CIMB play here in 2015. But between 2015 and 2019, we had a tournament that, first of all, didn't have a lot of people in the field. Secondly, most of those golfers didn't come over and play the Sanderson Farms. More likely because this was an alternate event to the WGC HSBC, they probably played that tournament instead of this one. So you can see we don't have a lot of play or even finishing positions, first through 20 to a missed cut within those years. We do, however, in 2013 and 2020. If you're wondering why it says 15 to 13, these are the seasons. So this tournament used to be kind of in the later part of the season in 2013 and beyond. But once it kind of changed and had the fall swing, this got bumped up into the fall. So it actually was played in 2014, but it was for 2015. So we do have stats that go from year to year. So you see this 2015 season, that just means it was played in 2014. Do not be confused or surprised about that. We can use last year finishing positions to our benefit because we really didn't take a break. Like there wasn't a year-long break or anything like that. But yeah, going from here, when the CIMB played prior to this tournament, we really don't have last week's stats. 2013 we do, and 2020 we do. And you can see having a top 20 finish the week before, pretty beneficial. In fact, the total number here is shown in 2020 and 2013. Like those are where those numbers come from. Obviously, I guess the most obvious thing is the only numbers we do see for the last week bucket are golfers who who did not play the week before, and that was obvious. So we can almost ignore this whole section between 2015 and 2019. 2013 and 2020 are good ones, or good years to look at for the last week bucket. We still see golfers who did not play, not so much in 2020. So that was last year. Seeing this might not be that beneficial. You know, maybe not thinking about the really not using the last week bucket. That's probably the best thing to do here. However, last year bucket, this all stays the same. You know, we don't have to ignore any part of this information. So really finding golfers who did not play the year before is going to be beneficial. Also, golfers who finished first to 20th the year before. We have a maximum of 2, a minimum of 1, but we've seen it every single year. So that is another good bucket to look at. In fact, the last year bucket 2 has 2 years where 0 happened. If these buckets were tied, I would give the nod to the first through 20. But you can see we can get a lot of numbers out of this bucket, or out of this last year bucket 2. Keep that in mind. That's definitely something to consider. So that's really all I have to talk about. I can show you what the bucket combinations look like. I did not actually record the different buckets because, again, 2019 through 2015, we really didn't have a tournament the week before. When we look at 2013 and 2020, you can obviously see, but 2013, I didn't have last year's stats. So really 2020 is all you get. So you see it's kind of just a fluctuation of different finishing positions from the year before as well as the week before. So I would say, I mean, I'm going to still stick to the buckets that we see, because obviously in 2020 we see 3 last year 1s, we see 3 last year 2s, a last year 3, a last year 4, and 2 last year 5s. So we basically can use any bucket from the last year. Well, I shouldn't say that. We can stick to our percentages that I was just showing you. So you can see the last year bucket 5s, or I should say the top 5 last year buckets, and then the top 10 last year bucket scores, pretty much the same. So I'm definitely going to use that. And of course, we can see that is applied to the spreadsheet. So we'll go over these golfers now, bucket by bucket. Usually in the past, I would have like a price strategy to go with, you know, based off their price tag. We only have 1 year's worth of DK data. Since I think last year was the first year that this tournament was really presented as a DK contest. So I really don't have like a salary strategy whatsoever. I would just say stick to what you typically do. I usually like to find one guy in the 6K range, a couple guys in the 7, 1 or 2 from the 8, maybe 1 from the 9, or 1 or 2 from the 9, and then 1 from 10K and above. Usually that's my strategy, and we'll go over that later. But let's go ahead. Let's get right into the buckets. I do believe I have this sorted by the game, and we'll get through that, or we'll go towards that. We'll get to that soon. Here, let me do something really quick. The number over here that you see are actually the percentages that come from the last year bucket and the last week bucket. So like last year bucket 3s, that would be 9.59%. And then the last week bucket 1s, 79.07. So you can see that pretty much equals 88. And you get that right here, 88.66. So that's what this number represents. I just wanted to put it there. I add those 2 percentage numbers as whole numbers, and then that's the number you see. It really doesn't mean anything. What I will say is I would avoid, really low numbers like Sam Burns per se. But anything like 135, we're going to see a lot of 135s down here. That doesn't mean to play them. Sure, their buckets are really good, but they're not even inside the top 300 for the official World Golf ranking. So I wouldn't play those guys. It's just there. It's something to look at. Maybe if you see this, if you don't like a certain golfer, then perfect. And I'll talk about that in the buckets here. So let's go ahead and get right into that. I will first sort by the last week bucket and then the last year bucket. So we kind of get our last year one, last week ones first. What I really should do is this, go by salary first. So we can get our best, you know, our highest priced buckets first. So when we look at last year one, last week one, how many are in this bucket combination? There are 32 golfers. 32 out of 142, or actually I think it's 145 or 144. Yeah, it's easy to see. I think Ches probably is your best bet. Sergio, I actually like Sergio this week primarily because his putting has been so bad, but his ball striking skills have been really good. So if he can at least get, I think what is he losing? I forget what his stats are when it comes to his putting. So overall, his putting is like -7. You know, that was from the year from the 2020 season. But I think just recently at the Safeway, I think he lost a crazy amount. I don't have those stats with me, but I think it was like somewhere around 4 or 5 strokes, maybe more. So if he can cut that in half, actually, I like to see him around 0. If he can get around 0, I think he has a good chance to do well at this tournament. And at $8,600, it's almost a steal, honestly. But his putting has been really bad. He's been changing his putting grip. It doesn't look good. Underneath Sergio, I really like Charles. Tom Lewis is another good golfer that I could pivot to easily. Same with Rory Sabatini. One thing I can't really show you guys is all of the stats that come with these golfers. I suppose I could, right? How about we do that? We can scroll through a little bit easier. So let's freeze up to the current column. Then hide all of this because we really don't need to see this. There you go. And then we can put our sort on there. Okay. Or our filter, I should say. So we can scroll across here and look at these golfers' stats. Perfect. Sergio, really bad recent form. No course history here, which we wouldn't expect because he has been an elite golfer for very, very long. For a very long time, I should say. He's just kind of fallen from grace a little bit just recently. So recent form doesn't look the greatest. The best would be Saith Thigala, sorry. He would definitely be a very a good candidate, you know, if we're looking at recent form. William McGirt, not terrible for course history. He did make the cut at the Safeway Open, I believe. Maybe not. I want to say he did. I think he did make the cut at the Safeway Open. That doesn't mean anything really, honestly. With his recent form of 67, that must mean he went to Corrales and missed the cut. Is that true? No. I'm not going to look into William McGirt. And really, I'm not even going to talk about this kind of stuff. I think it's kind of pointless. What I'd rather talk about is scoring average. So let me go ahead and let's just do it this way. This is the easiest way. Remove all of these. Actually, let's bring, no. So the best scoring average out of the 1-1s would be Taylor Gooch, which actually I think is a wonderful play here. And then it's Sergio followed by Russell Knox, so on and so forth. I like looking at scoring average with my buckets more so than I do any of the other stats. Recently, I won $100 doing this at the US Open. I also won a decent amount at, I want to say the Corrales Punta Cana. It could be the Safeway Open. I think it's the Safeway Open where I won double my money there. So using the scoring average is not a bad idea. So you can see the best scorers here. If you want the most volatile golfer, that'd be Sung Kang. And all that means is his low was 63 when compared to his scoring average. That's where the differential comes into, or the difference, which I think is actually pretty decent. You know, if we're looking for high scorers on DraftKings. And having a golfer who can go low, that's really good for DraftKings scoring. The most rounds under 70 belongs to Taylor Gooch, so another reason to play him. And then your percentage of golfers under 70, rounds under 70, the percent of rounds under 70 belongs to Wesley Bryan, then Taylor Gooch. So really, Gooch isn't a bad play. At 7,400, not bad. Wes Bryan, though, at 6,300, that is too hard to pass up. Is he actually 6,300? I need to double check this. For whatever reason, I don't believe that he's 6,300. I thought I saw him at like 6,800. No, he's 6,300. Okay. Yeah. I think firing up Wesley Bryan is a fantastic play. I see no reason, not to play him. Those stats are pretty good. So I'm not going to really go through any more up here. You obviously can see a lot of these golfers. Sergio has the best Bermuda. You can see everything up here. I'm not going to go through all the stats. Maybe we can look at our top stats guys. Sergio, Russell Knox, Sabatini, Watney, Reevy, Gooch, Bradley, and then everyone below. So, and that's in the field. How many top 20 stats they have in the field. So let's move on. Let's go to the last week twos. Not a lot. These are golfers who finished inside the top 20 last week. And if we remember, when it comes to our buckets, when we've had a tournament the week before that most of these golfers have played in, having a first to 20 finish is pretty good. So if that was the case, then you have a small pick of golfers. I mean, choose what you like, honestly. It's not terrible. I'm wondering if I should continue going. I don't think I should do it this way. I'm gonna include everybody, and then let's go ahead and look at the best. Well, how many stats? The top stat guys. You can see now Johnny Vegas creeps up there. Keith Mitchell, Grace, Perez, Bo Hosler, Stenson. Let's look at scoring average. Gooch is still at the top. A lot of your 1-1s. Pat Perez creeps up. Johnny Vegas, Grace, Badley, Mitchell. So definitely keep that all in mind. And then percentage of rounds under 70. We still have Wesley Bryan up there, but now we have Matthias Schwab. Gooch is still up there. Swafford and Perez. So a lot of good plays there. Chris Kirk even makes it up here as well. And then that's all I'm going to talk about with last year ones. Let's go into the last year twos. So last year twos, what we saw, 15%. It is a bucket that can get a lot of golfers inside the top 10, but it also can present some goose eggs. So really, it's no sure bet that, finding a good golfer in this range. Actually, what is the highest salary? Okay, so Corey Connors, Luke Liss, Lucas Glover. So you see a couple guys here, a lot of low price guys fall into this range or into this bucket. Your top stat getter is actually Jason Duffner at $6,800. That's not bad. If you're looking for a 6K golfer, Jason Duffner is not a bad choice. Chesson Hadley's next. I actually don't mind Chesson Hadley whatsoever. Will Gordon's interesting. I think a lot of people will be off of him since he was kind of the darling of last week who missed the cut. So he missed the cut, but he was a good price then. He's actually a discount from last week. A lot of people will be off of him. I think Will Gordon's game is pretty good, so I think playing him is not a terrible idea. Then you see a couple other guys down here. Luke List is what? The 9th best stat golfer within this bucket. So take that for what it is. Personally, I would rather go discount price for my last year twos as opposed to, you know, paying up to the other golfers who don't really make it to the top of the I mean, they are at the top of this bucket when it comes to stats, but, you know, not as great as I'd like them to be. We can look at, let's see, what were we looking at? We'll look at course or scoring average. So your best scoring average golfer in this bucket is Mark Hubbard. And honestly, you know, there was a stretch where Mark Hubbard was only shooting in the 60s. He had the most rounds in the 60s since the restart. And with that type of stat, you want to fire someone like that in your lineups. We want birdies, and this golfers that can go low, like we want that. Having 47 rounds under 70 all throughout the 2020 season, that's amazing. I think he's actually at the top of the leaderboard just in general for the entire PGA roster. So of all those that have tour cards that collected stats last year, he is at the top of it. So not a bad play. And how expensive is he? He's $6,800. It's crazy. I think he's definitely worth the play. And you can see the other top guys here, the other top scoring average guys. You know what? I kind of want to do this. I want to be able to see the price. There we go. I know I can't really scroll over too much, but that's all right. Your highest volatile golfer who obviously, like I've explained before, shoots the lowest compared to his scoring average is Rob Oppenheim. Actually, that's a lie. It's Jim Herman and then Wyndham Clark. Really not terrible plays, especially 6,200 and 6,900. That's pretty good. And then going through the rest of these, Ted Potter Jr. might be worth, you know, a bullet. Might be. I don't think I'll go that way. Your best round under 70 would be Will Gordon. So Gordon just might be the play, honestly, in the 7K range, especially for a last year too. We'll see when I make my rosters if how much of Gordon I want to play. I will be playing him quite a bit, but I'm just not sure how much. And then the percentage of rounds under 70, we have Mark Hubbard, Henrik Norlander, Maverick McNeely, Corey Connors, Vaughn Taylor, Will Gordon. Again, I don't really see the high price guys. Never mind. I don't know why I keep saying that. It's Connors, Glover, and Liss. Those were your top guys. Everyone else was in the 7K range, I believe. Yeah. So I for whatever reason think there's more golfers in this bucket that are higher priced, but I mean, it might be worth playing someone like Corey Connors or Luke List. It just, with the last year bucket, this bucket could either be 0 or it could be 3, could be 4. So I think that's how I'm going to create my lineups. And I think when I'm going to create anyone that's in that last year bucket too, I'm probably not going to play more than 15% of my player pool isn't going to be more, or I'm going to have 15% of my player pool be last year twos. And then in that player pool, I'm going to have some lineups where I don't have any last year twos. And then the rest of them are going to have 2 or more. So that's how I'm going to create my lineups when it comes to that kind of thing. So yeah, that was our last year 2 bucket. Now, last year 3 bucket is going to be the more interesting one because those are golfers who placed in the top 20 last year. So you can see the highest price guy here is Scotty Scheffler. He's a favorite amongst many. He's a favorite of mine. So is Sung Jae. But when we look at the bucket for this, we only see a maximum of 2 finish inside the top 10. And if that's the case, our highest priced golfers here, that doesn't look well. You know, that doesn't bode well for this bucket. So if you do like Scheffler and you like Sung Jae, I would say this. First, curb the amount of times you're going to play them. But then secondly, don't play both of them in the same lineup. It just the percentages of them being inside the top 10 together and making your lineup, you know, a worthwhile lineup for winning a GPP is just going to be so low that it wouldn't be worth it. But I actually don't mind whatsoever if you chose one of them to anchor your lineups. Maybe you go 50-50 with them. You know, if you made 10 lineups, maybe create 4 with Scotty, 4 with Sungjae, and then maybe select one of these guys down here. And in some of those lineups, you can have, you know, 2 more, or another one, I should say. But I like seeing that because I really like Zach Johnson. I really like Sungjae. I really like Scotty Scheffler. I might just go 30-30-30 with those golfers. I have no issue with that whatsoever. In fact, I'm most likely going to do that. I'll sprinkle some Brian Harman in there as well. And I also really like Carlos Ortiz. So I don't know. I might play. I always play 100 lineups, so I might play one of each for sure, and then sprinkle the rest in with the 3 guys or the 4 guys I told you I liked. So it'll be something like that. Let's go ahead, look at the scoring average. The best scoring average here, no surprise, Scotty Scheffler and Sungjae, and then Brian Harman, Zach Johnson. Byung-Hun An actually falls quite a bit. So if there was someone in the 10K range that you wouldn't feel that comfortable playing, if you don't feel comfortable playing Byung-Hun An, hey, you have every right to feel that way. His scoring average, not as good. But obviously you can see the scoring average doesn't fluctuate that much. But don't let that fool you. You know, 70.57 compared to like 70.04 is enough rounds, you know, that are above 70 to be, you know, concerned about. You know, if the cut at this tournament is -4, shooting 71-71 isn't going to cut it. Shooting 70-71 won't cut it. And 70-71 would get you that 70.5. So I would much rather have somebody who has a high or a closer scoring average up here. Now, don't get me wrong. These guys can obviously shoot in the 60s. But then that's where you would look at the differential as well as what their lowest round is. So Sungjae and Brian Harman, very consistent scorers. That's what you see here. When the differential isn't that high, that just means they're very consistent with shooting, you know, low rounds. Likewise, you can come down here and see Bronson Burgoon and Cameron Percy consistently bad, you know, consistently high scoring averages. So when we look at the differential, your highest differential actually belongs to the best scoring average that there is. So that makes Scotty Scheffler one of the best DraftKings plays out there. Denny McCarthy would be second. Zach Johnson's third. Zach Johnson, really like Zach Johnson, but seeing Denny up there as well, that's really good, you know, especially for someone that's $7,900. And then don't discount Fabian Gomez. Like, $6,100, you could do a lot worse. You could do a lot worse in the 8K range than Fabian Gomez. I know, crazy to say, but it's true. You could. The most rounds under 70 in this bucket belongs to Sungjae, followed by Scotty Scheffler and Brian Harman. So when you see that in the differential, it just makes Scotty Scheffler look really good, but it also makes Sungjae Im really safe. And I think playing Sungjae is not a bad thing. The most rounds under 70, I shouldn't say the most. The highest percentage of rounds under 70 belongs to Brian Harman, followed by Scheffler, Johnson, and Im. So a lot of the golfers I already mentioned. Really like those golfers. And then your top stat getters, Harman, Scheffler, Im, Munoz, and then obviously you can see the rest of them. So that's something that you're into. If you fancy that, there you go. You have it all there. Let's go ahead, get into the last year 4s. So we can sort this by the top stat getters. Emiliano Grillo is your top guy. I actually like Emiliano. A lot of people really giving him flack for being a bad putter. What I saw at the Safeway Open was a very consistent putting stroke. And to me, when you have a good putting stroke, you either are fooled by the greens, which you can make an argument that he's just a bad green reader. But really, he looked solid with all of his putts. Sure, he may not have made a lot, but at least he didn't look like Sergio, where you saw Sergio just look super uncomfortable. Emiliano Grillo didn't. So I would say Grillo is a decent play, and I would go with Grillo. We see Cam Davis. He is a favorite amongst many DFS touts out there. I mean, I'm not going to, just fall on the coattails, but Cameron Davis is a very skilled golfer. Hits the ball far. We will look at scoring average just to make sure that he's a low scorer, but for the most part, pretty good. And then seeing Adam Long up there, a lot of people were kind of crazy, or not crazy, but wondered why he was such a high price at the Corrales Punta Cana, only to find him leading the tournament after 3 rounds. Sure, he choked it away a little bit on Sunday, but like Adam Long is a solid golfer. If you watch his golf swing, very, very solid. I wouldn't say there's little flaws, because there are, but I could watch him swing over and over again. He has a very solid golf swing. I'm not going to talk about the other guys, but you obviously can see their order up here. Let's go ahead and look at the scoring average. So your top scoring average guy here is actually Adam Long, believe it or not. That is insane. That's crazy. Grillo was the other guy we're talking about. Sorry. Forgot that's what happens. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Let's go ahead and look at the low round that belongs to Adam Long. Actually, I want to look at differential. Differential, again, this is your most volatile golfer. Someone who can go super low and someone can go super high. And really, that's not a fair assessment. I don't want to say that. It's just their lowest round compared to the scoring average. Doesn't mean he shoots 62 regularly. It just means he has the potential to. Very interesting to see this. Robbie Shelton at 6,400 might be worth a flyer. Same with Hoagie. But yeah, there's Adam Long up there. Charlie Hoffman. Now, Charlie Hoffman, 71.06. The field average is 71.15. So he's just barely better than field average. I'm not even I don't like him. Like, until and you want to always be ahead of the game, but Charlie Hoffman's one of those golfers that I absolutely hate owning, hoping he's going to make the cut, only to disappoint. And he does that more often than he makes the cut. So if you want to play him, I'm just letting you know, man. This is my PSA for you guys. It's brutal to watch sometimes. The most rounds under 70 in this bucket belongs to Adam Long, followed by Brian Stewart. So Stewart, not a bad play. And then we also see Shank up here, as well as Stallings and Davis. So I really like this bucket. You can find a lot of good golfers here. I'm sure if you listen to me, you probably listen to some of the other touts out there, you would know the name Davis Riley. He has 4 rounds under 70. Now, he doesn't have a lot of rounds under his belt, but 50% of them are under 70. So obviously that means he's played 8 rounds of golf on the PGA Tour. 50% of them were under 70. I think the US Open was a par 70, so if he shot a under par round there, like if he shot 69, that counts as a round under 70, but it's only 1 under. As opposed to maybe some of these other guys that have good scoring averages with that amount of rounds under 70, probably doesn't look as impressive. So you definitely want to keep that in mind when you look at this number, or just these numbers in general. I don't mind Davis Riley at 6,700. He is a young guy coming from the University of Georgia, I believe. You could do worse, honestly. I'd almost put him in the same category as Cameron Davis. Like they're ready to break out, these players. They're the next, golfers in line to be, I'm trying to find a good comp. I don't want to use like Matthew Wolff and Colin Morikawa. It's really easy to use those golfers because they're so young, and so are these guys. But it's around that. It's that same type of mold. Like they have really good potential, more potential than a recent winner, you know, in Stuart Sink. Now I know that's kind of weird to say. How about we use Scott Brown? Haven't heard of Scott Brown in a long time. Definitely would pick Davis Riley over Scott Brown. No problem. Maybe that's a bad comp. I don't have anyone else in this price range. But yeah, I definitely put their potentials higher than a lot of the other golfers in this field. All right, let's get to our last year fives, which is going to be a shock to some of you guys. Doc Redman is a last year 5. If we were to go back to the bucket, 2.3, we're up here, 6.85%. You can see we have a few years where zeros have happened and a few years where, you know, well, a couple years where 2s have happened. So it's 50% that a last year 5 finishes inside the top 10, you know, at this tournament within the last 6 years. So it is a coin flip, you know, who to play here. I would certainly do this. I wouldn't feel comfortable playing 2 of these guys together. And when you look at the numbers over here on the side, you can see, I mean, last year 5 is only providing 6 points towards this number. So a lot of it relies on this last week. So that's why Doc Redman and Brandt Snedeker's score is so high. But, you know, Sam Burns being a 5.4, that doesn't give me any confidence, really. I know how much potential Sam Burns has. It doesn't give me any confidence to play him. But I do like Doc Redman. And I think this will be another year where a last year 5 finishes inside the top 10. We have 2 really good golfers in this field, or in this bucket. Actually, I'd say 3, because I'd consider Xinjun Zhang and Brandt Snedeker as half points each. So together they're 1. Add that with Burns and Redman, and we have a full 3. So as I scroll over, we'll look at their scoring averages. So your best scoring average out of this bucket obviously belongs to Doc Redman. You can see the rest of the guys up here. Sam Burns, obviously not too far away. The highest differential belongs to Bo Hogue, Sebastian Kaplan, but then there's Sam Burns. So maybe that's a good reason to play Burns over Redman, but their differential isn't that much isn't that further apart. So I'm just gonna always give the nod to Doc Redman in this spot, and if there was a heads up play, I would play Redman over Burns. And you can see the difference in percentages, the difference in rounds under 70, a few more for Doc Redman, and obviously a better scoring average. So the lowest scoring average is 69.71. Field average 71.15. So Burns, pretty good play. And then our last bucket is not a good bucket. And a lot of people on Siwoo and Patrick Rogers this week. I really like Patrick Rogers in general, but it's really hard to get there when his bucket is at last year 6. Last year 6 is even, I mean, when we go here and we look at golfers inside the top 5 that are last year 6s, I guess that's a lot. That's top 10. Actually, top 5 still pretty high now that I look at it. So, hey, last year 6 may not be a bad play. And if we look at the last year 6 combinations here, 6-1, 6-1, 6-1. So that kind of puts Siwoo up there for golfers to choose from. It really knocks out Chase Seifert. I'm not sure if a lot of you guys were going to play him anyways, but I'll go through all these stats really quickly for you guys. I'm not going to talk about a lot of this. You can see it on the screen right now. It's a tight race between Patrick Rogers and Siwoo Kim. So if you're going to pick a 6, which I would recommend only doing in 6% of your line, well, I'd recommend doing 5 and 4. So, if you're going to create 10 lineups, Maybe you put one with Siwoo and one with Patrick Rogers, and that's it. Don't play any more than that. But that was kind of the bucket breakdown. So let's get into the last piece of information, which is going to be the tee times. And we can sort that out by game. And I was going to highlight all of these. Or I should say all of them. I was going to highlight all the ones that I liked. But sorry, a little distracted, but why I didn't was primarily because I didn't have time. I don't know why I was going to try to make that way more than it needed to be. So what I like to look at is your scoring average. I'm going to hide this information here. This isn't important to me. But I'm going to look at scoring average. And if I see a bunch of golfers here that have decent scoring average, I'm just going to highlight them green. So, and 71.15, again, that is average. I want to find at least a couple guys in the 70s. And then also a decent bucket, essentially. So as I scroll down here, I mean, like we have Burns, not in a very good group with, geez, what am I doing? Not in a very good group with Scott Brown and Bo Van Pelt. So this to me is like just fade. Just realized you're seeing more than you probably need to be seeing. Let's make that a little different. There we go. So I wouldn't play Sam Burns, honestly. That's what that kind of is telling me right there. How about this? I'm gonna do this, make this real easy. We're gonna highlight the top 20 scoring averages. And we're just gonna make it yellow. Yellow is kind of like caution. And if we see two yellows together, we're going to put them together. Actually, how about this? We're also going to find differential, top 20, make those yellow as well. Rounds under 70. And we're going to do that as well here. And then we'll see what we get. That way it makes this so much quicker to go through. Funny enough, these two guys that I highlighted in the beginning, not up there. So I'm going to unhighlight them, but then we'll go ahead and highlight these golfers. Make those green. Sam Burns shows up. We're going to make him red. I actually do like this group, so I'm going to make them green. And the reason being, Tom Lewis, really good golfer, doesn't have a lot of stats that will count on the PGA Tour. I should say, doesn't have a lot of enough starts to have his stats count. So that's why we're not going to include him. Jonathan Bird actually really had a low round not too long ago. He's making his comeback from injury. So that's why I like him as well. I'm going to highlight this one too, because I think this group can go really low as well. Sneaky group here with Tringali, Hadley, and Lahiri. Now we have Redman. Sorry about that. Redman here with Martin Laird and Emiliano Grillo. I already told you I like Grillo. I think Grillo can go low. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this green, this group green as well. And really when it comes to showdown, I think selecting from any of these guys right here would be pretty good. If you can find a good price on some of these guys, like I'm not sure what it looks like for Hadley or say Lahiri, but I'm sure Lahiri is cheap. And pairing Lahiri up with with Hadley or Tringali will give you a lot of access to other players. And I think that's definitely worthwhile. Don't really like this group. Fun fact, Martin Trainer, one of the highest scoring golfers here, and really one of the worst golfers, I should say. So Poston, Werenski, and Tway. I really don't like Tway, but seeing Poston and Werenski up there, pretty decent. Perez with Hoffman and Greg Chalmers, not a terrible group. I mean, I was just kind of giving crap about Hoffman, but I'll go ahead and highlight this green because I do like Hoffman. Actually, I'm going against my rules, right? I'm gonna stick to my rules, and I know there's one group up there that I selected all green, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do this way. I don't like Snedeker. I really don't. I'm gonna highlight him red, but I really don't like Snedeker, and I'm probably not gonna play Snedeker. The Scheffler, Im, and Bradley. This is hot fire. Like, this is probably your best group, or one of the best groups. Definitely consider that one for sure. Here's another good group. I'm gonna make this dark green as well. So I'll make this one like the darkest green, and then this one next because I really like that. And then there's Wesley Bryan. Really like Wesley Bryan. We're gonna make him red because he's the only one that I like in his group. I actually like this group quite a bit, so I'm gonna highlight. Oh yeah, that's right. Sticking to our rules. But I do like Harrington quite a bit. Taylor doesn't really do anything for me, but you know, he doesn't have a terrible scoring average. Actually doesn't have a lot of terrible stats whatsoever. So Taylor's not bad, and I think that's a really good group for Will Gordon. I think Will Gordon has the potential to do really well at this tournament this week. Gooch is actually in a really good spot too. If Rafa Cabrera Bello is back to his game that he had a few years ago, as well as at the US Open a couple weeks ago, I think, you know, Cabrera Bello could go low. And then, you know, if these two are feeding off each other, it's a really good group. So definitely consider Gooch and RCB together. I really don't like Benny Ann with his group of golfers, but I don't think it's going to matter for Benny Ann. He's kind of all to himself. Don't really so much care for Schwab or his group. Same goes for Oppenheim. Davis Riley is actually in an interesting group with Kramer Hickok and Zach Fisher. Zach Fisher, I believe, is an older golfer. Don't quote me on that, but I believe he is. Hickok is actually an up-and-coming younger golfer. I think it was his rookie year last year, so I think he might be worth a play. Sloan can go really low, but maybe there's too much volatility in this group to really like. But I'll go ahead and highlight him red. And then Norlander, same thing. Norlander has a good scoring average, but I'm not positive I can trust him in that group. I really don't like it. I actually really like this group with Ortiz, Stewart, and Hogue. I'm just going to leave it yellow. I'm going to highlight the whole group yellow. I'm going to break the rules a little bit, because I have so many colored golfers down here. Actually, how about this? Instead of wasting my time highlighting these golfers, I don't care about this group. I don't care about this group. Look at this group. All three of them. So this is what I'm talking about. When you see something like this, it's definitely worth, you know, highlighting them green. And what is their price point? 63 and 61. It might be worth playing Ted Potter or Sung Kang. You know, they were all highlighted, meaning they were either top scoring average or top differential or top rounds or percentage of the rounds under 70. So definitely keep that in mind. Really like Chappell. I'm not sure if this is a tournament he'll show up, but he's not in a terrible group, so definitely worth the play. Here's a good one with Corey Connors, Sebastian Munoz, and Ryan Armour. I believe these are all past winners. Except for I don't remember Corey Connors winning this. I do remember Ryan Armour, though. Let's actually highlight them a little darker green. Here's another good. This is a really good group here. Long, Garcia, and Stenson. I think they can feed off each other. I do like Harmon's group with Scott Piercy. Maybe not so much Kevin Stadler, but they're all kind of... I wouldn't be surprised if they're all friends because they're all kind of old. Really like this group. Hubbard, McNeely, and Stanley. So I'm going to go ahead and just highlight them yellow. Stallings, List, and Sabatini. I also like that group. I will highlight them yellow. Clark. I can't remember. He might be playing with Cure Deck FB Barnrat. That or he's playing with some kind of irrelevant golfer. So, I'm not sure. I'm just gonna highlight him red. There's enough in this group. Actually, let's make that all yellow. Sahith Thigala, he actually is a very good golfer, and I believe he has the opportunity to go really low. So he's worth the look. Actually, this whole group is not a terrible group. Will Zalatoris is in it. I'm going to highlight it yellow. I like it. And then Christopher Ventura with Vincent Whaley and Isaiah Jackson. Don't really love that. So there we go. We went through the entire tee times, and I kind of went over the golfers that I like and disliked. So I guess when we look at salaries, you know, we have Scheffler and Im playing together, so I really like them. I'm going to go ahead and just post or paste those right here. And since those are last year threes, I'm not going to select any more last year threes. Interesting to see Dylan Fratelli. He wasn't even a golfer I was looking at until I saw, you know, the game here, but he's already last year 3. Not gonna go that route. It might be worth playing Sergio, honestly. I actually wouldn't mind playing someone like Sergio. What did I say? For last year 2s, let's go ahead and look at our last year 2s. If we do play them, then why don't we throw Potter in there? And I can't remember where he's playing or who he's playing with. Who is Ted Potter playing with? TPJ playing with Fratelli. Wow. I'm just gonna actually include Sun King. So now this gives me access to 8,800. I have 2 golfers that are last year 1s, and they're actually both last year, or they're the last year 1, last week 1. So they are 1-1s, as I would call them. But $8,800 left over. I think I can play someone like Doc Redman, and then someone 7K range. This is insane. I shouldn't say it's insane. Like the 2 golfers that are bringing up the caboose aren't that good. But I can add somebody like Charles Schwartzel or Tom Lewis. Or maybe we don't go there. We go with like a 4-1. I don't like Russell Knox. Yeah, let's go with like Tom Lewis. I like Tom Lewis. So we can go ahead, put that. It leaves us $200 left over. That's not terrible. If I'm going to do this with Sung Jae, I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to go with Chesson Hadley because I do like him as a 2-1. And if I do that, again, if you're playing 1-2-1 or 1 last year 2, play a couple. Luke List is a consideration. I suppose I really don't like anyone else, do I? That's a last year 2. Will Gordon. I do like Will Gordon, so I'll go back here. So now I have $8,200 to work with when we look at it that way. I don't have to select a last year 5. You know, obviously I like Doc Redman, but we don't have to go that route. We can... So we have $8,200 left. Maybe I just put in Carlos Ortiz here because I do like Carlos Ortiz. And then we go something like, I don't want to play another Sergio lineup, and I don't. We'll go with Chez. Why not? Chez is a good play. Leaves us with $7,200 left. Come down here. Do we like anybody? Keegan Bradley. I mean, I can create worse lineups. So that's kind of an idea how to do this when it comes to the bucket system. We'll see how I go along with this. I still have lineups to create, so I will get on that right after I post this. This is actually a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I didn't mean it to be this long, but we are here, and it wasn't that bad of a video. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you during the review video. All right, bye.